Hey, what's up, YouTube? Today I'm going to be talking about 10 toxic tactics a female covert narcissist is going to use once the initial love bombing stage is over and the devaluation stage has begun, because it's inevitable. The idealization and devaluation cycle is a pattern of intermittent reinforcement that deeply confuses your mind, your heart, and deeply within your soul. It preys on your deepest human needs and desires as well as your neurological motivation and reward pathways. Devaluation is a projection and also a discharge of negative emotions that the narcissist has towards their true self, and they release that onto you. It's a defense mechanism to keep you or anyone else from getting too close and recognizing their discarded and rejected self. It's also a strategy meant for controlling you and keeping you from rejecting them. And guess what? You'll never leave them because you'll be too busy trying to prove your worth to them, and eventually to yourself, and dedicating all your time, money, and energy, and whatever other resources to this conundrum you can't seem to crack, this quest you can't seem to complete, and the feeling of if you can just prove your worth to her, you'll win some grand prize, her unconditional love and appreciation. But the fact is, you're just getting sucked into a hopelessly rigged long game that ends with you either being discarded, and that's if you're lucky, or psychologically dominated if you stick around too long. These are the female covert narcissist's top 10 favorite strategies to dominate and control you, and I promise you through time you become more and more obedient than a puppy seeking her approval, always trying to please her, giving her everything you've got. In return, you either get nothing or the bare minimum. Like, she might throw a dog a bone here and there to keep your hopes up, but in the end, it's a very slippery downward slope, and it's really important for people to know the signs of a toxic partner, especially when it involves something as low-key as covert narcissism, because their psychological abuse can be long-lasting and extremely insidious. No matter what kind of narcissist you're dealing with, they are almost always lacking self-awareness and take zero responsibility for their actions or their own healing. And obviously there's men who are toxic covert narcissists as well, but I find there's not a lot of resources for dudes who are being psychologically abused, which is why this is what I'm focusing on today. Number 1. Female covert narcissists will entrust you with her most vulnerable experiences and information, and she's going to do this very early on, and she's going to talk as if though you're the special one, and she's never trusted anybody like this before. But after the love bombing stage is over, she'll act like she made the biggest mistake ever trusting you. She'll accuse you of doing things to make her feel insecure and unsafe, that you're not putting her as a priority, not defending her, not keeping her happy and secure like you promised you would. And this negative shift in her will be all your fault. And the only way you're going to get the good version of her back, the version that you fell in love with in the first place is going to be to show and prove to her that you are good enough, that you are worthy of her trust and love, and that you can give her what she needs. So the female covert narcissist will send you repeatedly strong messages through her words and actions that you want this version of her you had in the beginning and want the fantasy future that you dreamed with this girl. You better get your shit together and show her you're the man that you said you'd be. So all the pressure to make this relationship work falls entirely upon you. You need to fix yourself. You need to try harder. In order to win the long game, she needs to give you a glimpse of hope. So she throws you a few bones here and there, like you guys have a nice time together, a good conversation, good sex, like you feel like you're getting somewhere, as if your efforts are actually paying off, but then, bang, something little happens, something you did, something happens and sets her off. There she goes yet again being disappointed in you, pulling away from you, blaming and rejecting you. Her sweetness turns bitter. No matter what you do, but through this pattern of intermittent reinforcement, you are being trained and programmed to believe you are defective and flawed and that you need to figure out what she needs. And if you don't, you're just not worthy of her or anyone else for that matter. Point blank, period. Number 2. The female covert narcissist is super passive-aggressive, and she'll create arguments out of thin air by accusing you of being negative or being in a bad mood or having a tone, a look, even though you're fine and nothing is wrong whatsoever. But she keeps pushing you and pushing you to find out why you're mad until you actually are pissed off. Or she baits you into fake fights by pushing other emotional buttons she knows you will react to, and once you react, it becomes all about that. Or maybe instead of accusing you of being mad, she might act upset but then refuse to elaborate why and refuse to talk about it, making it you basically beg to find out and resolve it and beg for forgiveness without even knowing what the hell you did wrong. And after it's all over, you look back and you still have no idea where it even came from or what it was even about, and that's because it's all just a fabrication. And this is an attempt for her to discharge all of those negative emotions onto you and keeping the upper hand by keeping you thinking you're the problem. Number 3 is she's incredibly defensive, and if you try to communicate something important to her or something bothering you, she'll dismiss you, minimize it, and shut the shit the fuck down. She won't be open to hearing you or establish any sort of compromise, and if she's done anything to contribute to said problem, or if it's something that's completely her fault, don't expect that woman to take responsibility whatsoever, not even an apology. And if by some miracle of grace of God you do get an apology, it's only a ploy for you to see that you are ultimately to blame. Number 4, the female covert narcissist is extremely careless and impatient and reckless with your feelings, especially if what's hurting you is related to her. So if you cry or show your sadness, it won't faze her even one bit. Zero sympathy. Nada. She will even see it as a weakness for her to exploit later. So if you confide in her your fears or your past traumas, you can bet your sweet bippy this is going to be used in arguments or as reasons why you are the way you are and why it's your fault for whatever is happening. Number 5, you cannot win with the female covert narcissist regardless what you say or whatever you do to try to fix that wrong. Number 5 is you cannot win with the female covert narcissist regardless what you say or whatever you try. It will be wrong. For example, let's say you have an argument and you decide to go for a walk to chill out. She'll just be more pissed off because you're just running away instead of trying to resolve things. But if you stay, she'll just keep arguing, saying you're being too aggressive or pushy. You can't win. Number 6 is she'll compare you in your relationship to others, and again, no matter how much you do, no matter how much money, time, or energy, it's still not going to be enough. You're going to be like Sisyphus, forever rolling a boulder up a hill, only starting at the bottom the next day, because you will still feel unworthy and unappreciated. Meanwhile, she doesn't give a fuck. She's given very little effort and contribution to the relationship, even though she's giving off the impression that somehow she's doing everything. These comparisons make you feel like you've done something wrong, like you don't deserve the closeness or connection and the love because it's all your fault, and this will put you in a competitive nature that you want to prove yourself wrong, that you are good or better than the next guy. But in the long run, you work harder and harder, not realizing that for every step forward, you're still taking several steps backwards. Number 7, she's going to start grading your performance. For example, she might say you were only a 6 out of 10 last night, or that vacation was only 40% of what she was expecting, and she'll show you her heavy discontent with how much affection or compliments you give, how much money you spend, how much effort you're really putting into it, and she'll constantly be grading and measuring your performance and everything to everyone just to make sure you know you're not satisfying her, leaving you with a feeling that you're on thin ice and constantly walking on eggshells, always nitpicking and putting your best efforts down no matter how hard you try. She'll treat you like you're giving the bare minimum and you need to be better if you want to keep her. Number 8 is the female covert narcissist will have a lot of boundaries for herself, but none when it comes to you. And if you have set any, they will be disregarded, and if you need or want anything, forget about it, because to her it's either unimportant or stupid. Number 9, she needs to know and control everything you do. When you get groceries, when you go to the gym, if you talk to someone, or she'll accuse you of this, that, and the other. This isn't always to do with jealousy, it's usually just meant to control you, and she questions not only what you do, but how you do it, as though you're a stupid idiot who can't do anything right. You're treated as completely incompetent, and because of it, you'll likely find yourself starting to doubt yourself on everything and have to double check with her on everything that you do, as if you don't have a mind of your fucking own. Afraid of making a simple decision and fears of having to deal with her wrath. her guilt trips, the silent treatment, amongst other negative reactions. And what you might have not figured out yet is that no matter what you do, that outcome will still be the same, just like Sisyphus pushing that boulder up a mountain each day. It's actually ridiculously insane and predictable. Number 10. Over time, you'll be stripped of any sense of self and self-worth you ever had. You'll be constantly adjusting yourself, trying to figure out what you're doing wrong, or if you're doing something wrong. How am I going to please her? Eventually, you'll look in the mirror and only see a shell of your former self. You might even feel like you're the clown monster she's painted you out to be, like you're completely unraveling mentally and emotionally. And once you see through these mind games and predictable patterns of abuse more clearly, you'll also see that you've become the narcissist plaything, completely dominated and broken down psychologically. Don't take my word for it. Just look back to when the relationship first started and ask yourself if she's getting better or worse. Is the relationship gotten better? Are you evolving or devolving? Anyways, if you found this video helpful, please subscribe, give me a like and a comment, and I'll see y'all in the next one.